What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It's AZ. Welcome to episode 3 of Road to $10,000. Just a forewarning, we had a little bit of a yap session in today's breakdown. I'm going to be talking about 3 separate trading days. I'm going to post on the right side of the screen right here all of the timestamps if you're curious about those days. The final section of the video today is going to be how I was able to pass my funded account in one trade. I traded an Apex account with two minis, and it's actually the trade that you're seeing right here, at least a piece of it rather. This was the full delivery of the trade, but I was able to take my piece at the initial leg and was able to actually pass my Apex account that I had just bought that day in one trade with a super nice read. So we're going to be going into all the reads that I made this week, how I was able to find those trades, some of the trials and tribulations that I was dealing with during the week itself, and how I'm going to adjust in the future in order to make sure that we're staying sharp and making the right decisions. I appreciate you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoy. Peace. Alright guys, finally got the Wednesday chart set up. This is the day that I took a really bad two losing trades, just kind of chasing price action. Like, historically for me, first days on live accounts are super rough just because I have a lot of butterflies and just anxiety around, making the correct start for an account. And I felt like this day I just was trying to be too exact with the market and wanting it to deliver in my favor. So the first trade that I took today was a short off of the first presented fair value gap right up here. And as you can see, I definitely got stopped out. We dumped into this fair value gap and then completely boosted out. But in hindsight, we're taking out the previous day high. So it makes sense for us to do this first and then move lower because I was just initially bearish. So I kind of faded, sweeping an external level to capitalize on a short-term game, and I got punished for it. It was a 30-point loss. It was about $200 with the amount of size that I was using. And then try to flip with the intention of, okay, we completely boosted out of this range here. If we come back into 50%, let's get long now. And then as you can see, another $200 stop, and that would trigger my daily max limit of $400. So risk was kept under control. However, I was just a little too hasty on my short idea, and when I got proved wrong after that really quick stop out, I wanted to take another trade because I didn't want to start off on a bad note. And I got to really just do a better job this month and going into next week on just fading that emotion and just doing better, because that type of behavior is super self-destructive. And if I can't, get that under control, I'm going to have to limit myself to one trade a day. And I don't want to have to do that, and just give myself the freedom to, give myself a couple minutes to kind of recuperate. Because here's why. If you highlight this fair value gap right here, which is the exact candle that sweeps the previous day high, you actually get a good read here. So we get an inverse fair value gap, displacement, and then the 10 o'clock version of the LeBron model, which I call the LaMelo model, happens. And we get a short trade all the way down here, right? Which, if you're looking for shorts this day, we have a internal sweep, we have an external sweep, sweeping the previous day high. So we have an internal model developing right here. We have a inversion fair value gap, a first presented fair value gap, and then displacement after tapping into the first presented, right? From there, we're disrespecting the equilibrium of this range and then continuing to move lower. So this is how I could have approached it. I just wasn't in the right mindset, but luckily we kind of took the steps necessary the day and the night after, or literally for the rest of that day, of just kind of shaking it off and getting back to the values that really got me to where I was passing these funded accounts within a couple of trades. So we're going to go ahead and skip into Thursday now, and let's just cut to that. All right, so this was Thursday's price action right over here to the left. And as you can kind of see to the right, we're kind of taking the same trades every single day. Again, I like to start my days on the 1 hour chart and just frame the obvious pool of liquidity. So on a higher time frame, we have Wednesday high, we have Tuesday high here, and then Wednesday high to the right. And the way I read this as a daily level weekly reversal, where we're taking out the previous day high and then displacing lower, it's kind of giving us a bearish weekly range. So with that context in the overnight, I was just like, okay, the only thing that I really want to see here is that we respect the OTE of this bearish leg, which would be from here to here, or respect a bearish PD array on a higher time frame. That was this obvious 1 hour fair value gap plus a market structure shift if you trade the 2022 model. So a lot of confluence here. So I was just really betting that when I woke up the next day, I was going to be short biased. And I just want to kind of zoom you guys in onto the Discord over here on the actual trade that we took on Thursday that corresponded with that. So first things first, we have all of that price action that we were just looking at above here. And then we have a 15-minute fair value gap with this high right here. So there was a very nice SMT where ES was trailing a little bit lower where my cursor is, and Q was taking out this high. So that was the SMT right there. And then we had a 2-minute first presented fair value gap. That completely got disrespected, tapped into it, and pushed away to our external level. So I was actually dealing with some work complications this day. One of my reps who was supposed to be opening wasn't at the store, so I had some things that I had to take care of. So I missed my bread and butter entry. Had I had taken this on my live account initially, I was going to take it with full size this day. This was an easy 900 point trade, but I missed it, so I decided to size down and take a comfortable trade. How did I do that though? Normally people think when you miss your entry model, that's all there is to it. But with all the context that we have on the daily and the weekly profile, and then the 1 hour already respecting its civvy, you can assume that the daily model for today is going to be continuation where we were going to continue to move lower. So with that being said, I only need to apply a couple principles to see if we're going to move lower or not. Now, we had this initial bearish leg here. What I did is I measured from the high to the low of the initial bearish leg that we created in the session. And I wanted to see and observe price action around the OTE of that bearish leg, which was right here. So when this candle closed like this, and on top of that, below our 15-minute order block, I decided to take a short after tapping the OTE one more time and then rejecting it again. That is enough confluence for me to commit to another trade with a stop loss above the first presented fair value gap, which is just around 35 points, which is the exact same risk to reward that we're looking for on all of our trades. About 30 points, because any more than that, it's starting to get invalidated, and I was able to easily scoop up $800 and take my account out of drawdown from the first day. So that was that. So that was this day right here. We finished the day 300. I think we took a loss in the middle of all that because I was dealing with some stuff with work. But the goal that day was just to get some money back and excuse me, to get some money back from our losing day and not overstep on what we're trying to do for winners. Because traditionally on these accounts, I'm only trying to lose around $100 to $200 on the day. And our winter days, I want ranging between $300 to $500. So I'm not going to go here and try to make $800 in one trade. Yes, I know I can do that. But when I start having that behavior, self-destructive behaviors come after that if it doesn't go my way. So for those who are coming into their live accounts, the easiest thing that you guys can do is pick comfortability over accessibility. You have the access to make a lot of money on these accounts and you can do it really quick, but you also have the access to lose them very quick. I have gotten so many live accounts without payouts over the last couple of months because I'm coming into them knowing that I have the edge, so I'm going to push the edge, right? You need to cultivate your money-making skills. So for me, all I decided to do out of the formula that I had is just to slow it down and prove to myself first that I can consistently make $500 a day. Right? I said this in the last video, you don't have to hang with the big dogs just yet. So that was my philosophy coming back into it after having a max loss day the day before. Take care of business and take an A+ setup. If you lose, you're done. If you win, great job. Okay? And then we also did that for Friday's trade as well. So we'll get into that. Friday's price action was awesome, and I actually passed a funded account on this day as well. On Apex, it was a one-shot trade. I used 2 minis, and I was able to trade about 70 points to the downside using a different model. So we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about the live trade that I took first. This was about a $500 winner. It's about $475, taking it all the way to the high, starting with 3 micros. Essentially, what we have highlighted here is a small news range from our news that we had on Friday. So from high to the low, we actually had an hourly fair value gap right marked at the sell side liquidity. So I wanted to observe if price was going to respect the first presented fair value gap today or inverse it so we could take a long. We had super bullish context coming into the morning. So any type of confirmation that we were going to go long, I was going to look for. And we just happened to have gotten the right reaction from the market as soon as we opened. We came out, Judah swung all the way down to the 9:30 or this 8 o'clock range, news range low. And we printed a first presented fair value gap as a SIBI. So all we needed to wait for here is, look, if we're going to go short, we're going to respect this and move lower and start trending in here. But we also have another hourly fair value gap. So even if we do go in here, I'm still waiting to see if we have a bullish reaction. Okay. So I'm just trying to prove my bias to be correct right now or be proven wrong. Not, oh, I want to take this, I want to take this. That's another mind shift that I switched, right? So after that, we kind of took out this low, created a lower low after taking out the low, and then completely closed above the first presented fair value gap, tapped into it once and speed boosted out, right? You could do a couple things. If you're super convicted like I was, you enter here. If you need more confirmation, wait for the next fair value gap to form after touching the first presented fair value gap and enter off of that. Your stop loss should be the low of the first presented fair value gap or whatever's comfortable for you. Honestly, if you can make it all the way to the low, maybe you have to use less size, but I'd rather you keep yourself safe than sorry. So let's talk about the trade that actually got me funded on Apex. I was able to pass this in one trade, and the concept here is the same thing that we were just talking about, guys. So we have the LeBron model for the first 30 minutes of the day, and then we have the we have the LaMelo model for the 10 o'clock of the day, right? So the difference between these two is just time. With that being said, you have 2 times during the day to take an A+ model, right? A+ model trade. Now, the way we framework this is just like how we frameworked it on Thursday. We had an hourly fair value gap that I wanted to see price draw into to continue the higher time frame bearish order flow to the downside, okay? With that being said, we chopped around in this fair value gap. I would have loved to see an internal sweep up here. We did not get that. However, we had corresponding price action telling us that we wanted to move lower. Another fair value gap that you can highlight here is the fair value gap that sweeps the news driver high, the 830 high of this day. Because if we start closing outside of it, we're again getting proven that we are bearish. But if you're trading a time-based model, let all of these things line up for you. So when your time-based fair value gap comes, all you need to do is give it one last read and pull the trigger. I repeat, all you need to do is line all these things up and then wait for your fair value gap to give you the confirmation to pull the trigger, okay? So we're just following the lines of what the market should be doing. If it doesn't correspond with it, we're probably incorrect for the day, or we have lack of efficiency, which is an indication where you should probably step away, right? So I was initially bearish, but short-term bullish because that's what my model, the LeBron model, does. This was the manipulation of the day. And according to Power 3, after manipulation, you have distribution. The cool thing about this is what happens right after. So we'll talk about the piece that I took. We marked out the CISD after inversing the inversion fair value gap. And then after that, marked out the first presented fair value gap. The first presented fair value gap here was completely respected at the consequent approachment of that gap and therefore pushed lower, right? Now, if you're not so convinced that this is going to happen, again, you have more time here. You don't need to rush. Notice how we start closing out of this fair value gap and closing outside of this local low and touch it one more time. And then we continue to move lower. The cool part about this whole entire trade is everything that happened after, right? So for me, I like taking my piece. I want to be the type of trader in the future to take the whole entire thing. The beautiful thing about the LaMelo model and why I want to shift this and really take practice at it a little bit more is that there's so much more available with the LaMelo model. This model tells you the daily expansion and what the daily expansion should be doing. So we take out this buy side liquidity level, the 830 news driver level, and then create a first presented fair value gap after doing all that stuff. And at no point in time do we return back to that fair value gap. And according to the model, it's supposed to deliver all the way to, According to the model, it's supposed to deliver all the way to the London low, and that's exactly what it did for the day, right? This is 339 points, and it delivered an hour and 30 minutes after our model started. If we can master something like this, we can really take some more money away from the market, and we don't have to trade the LeBron anymore. We can trade the daily expansion of the range. But it depends how I'm feeling. Like, it just happened to be that I knew what was happening in the market this day, so I was like, you know what? I'm so convinced that we're going to move lower after making this first presented fair value gap. Let's do two minis and try to pass up the account in one trade. And as we saw, I completely had the draw correct and then had the daily draw correct as well. So I do feel like there's a day or a future me who takes this whole entire piece. But for now, we're going to stay in our lane and stay focused because that's all we can do. Anyway, guys, that's how the week went for me. I learned a lot of things about myself and really rallied myself after a loss. One of the things that I've been focusing on a psychology note is mental resilience. How fast can you get back to where you were as a trader after facing adversity? And how efficient can you be in terms of like, are you going to be as good, a little bit worse, or even better than you were? Which takes a lot of positive cheering. So I've just been kind of stringing myself along this week and just being like, hey, one step at a time. Let's not continue to make the same mistakes and just adjust, and practice makes perfect.